The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
LA, straight up. Just go out to LA. The new anthem, California Love Part 2. One time. To live and die in LA. West side, west side, west side. To live and die in LA, where everybody try to fatten their pocket. So many hustle for the cash, so it's hard to knock it. Everybody got their own thing.
Hello. God bless you, and welcome to Gang Talk with Sister Herron. And we're absent Skip Townsend because, Skip has been our co-host for many, many years, and Gang Talk has been doing this for quite a few years, actually starting June 4th, 2009 on radio. And back in those days, we only had 30 minutes of live airtime, and that was it. There were a few years later, they rebroadcast the 30-minute show on Wednesday nights, but KTYM became very supportive of our work, and because of that, we were blessed to know our hostess father, Johnny Morris, which led us here to podcast with his daughter, Felicia, the poetess Morris. So it's kind of a family thing that we've been doing from the very beginning. And as I say to you every week that we do this, is that because it is family business. We are family. And the truth is, when you look at the bigger picture, you can see that we are related through slavery and don't actually know all of our kinfolks, don't know everyone we're related to. So it makes us very unique that way. And I hate to say unique, but we are unique, and that's part of the reason why we are unique. But as a people, I know God loves us. As a people, I know that the work that I do has been heartbreaking for the God that made the promise and all the people that we work with through the years, especially our mothers. So I want to go back and talk a little bit about last week because, as you know, this is my last month in this seat. It doesn't mean that Gang Talk will end. It just means that I'm moving out of the seat to give the next generation a chance to come forward like we need them to. And I've actually been doing this for decades, and it's heartbreaking to say that. But so many children did not survive the length of time that I've been doing this work. And so we're here for them. That's why we're here. We're here for the children who have paid the ultimate price and the sacrifice. And thanks to my grandchildren that are almost grown enough, but they send me music videos that indicate the change in the message. And one of them sent me a video today that called Reason. I believe that's the name of it, is Reason. And he talks about taking the life of someone and how he's in lockup now trying to figure out why he did that. And that's a very truthful, honest answer. Why did he do that? And that's the question we have to answer ourselves as a people, because it's not enough just to complain when law enforcement kills our children, which I agree with. I was thinking about Ezell Ford today and all the others that have been victimized by law enforcement right here in this city. And Barry Montgomery, the same year as Ezell Ford, was assaulted brutally, beaten and nose broken and cheekbones broken by Compton sheriffs. And Barry had challenges just like Ezell Ford did, and we were demanding some kind of response. I'm not even sure what I'm saying, but after Stephen Eugene Washington, 27-year-old autistic man trying to live his life as an autistic adult, was killed by LAPD, and then the officers that killed him in just a blink of an eye, like they did Tamir Rice in Cleveland. Then they found out that Stephen was actually autistic, and we had that meeting with Chief Beck, where I had a chance to ask him what made the officers think that Stephen had the capacity to understand their commands. So it's been real work for us. It's been serious work, and the truth is, it's about life or death. And there's nothing after death. Nothing that you know. Nothing that you know. See, so it's been very serious, and I'm really here as a walking testimony, the evidence of a walking testimony where God will use a willing vessel. And I have to thank him for not only getting me here, but getting me through everything that I've been through in all the years that I've been in this service. And in this service is what I have been dedicated to. And that's to try to save a life, save our own lives, save the lives of our precious children. You know, it's a heartbreak to give birth to a child, raise him, get him to 5, get him to kindergarten, get him to the 1st grade, get him to 6th grade, and then find out that in the 7th grade to the graduation, he's subject to murder. That's very hard for any mother to wrap her mind around, and mothers don't think that way. We just don't think that way. We give birth to children, we put all our hopes in them and all of our dreams, and they are our future. And the show that we broadcast last week, we rebroadcast because, it rains. It rained last Thursday, and I'm all covered up today because it rained again today. And LA folks, we just not accustomed to water. Okay, we're not accustomed to weather. And I actually have on socks and shoes tonight when I'm used to sandals and barefoot. So it was 60 degrees today, and I had to find a sweater or something to cover up just to come and talk to you about this. But this has been the commitment Thursday at 6 o'clock on this show. And we want to just thank everybody that's paid attention and felt that they could, if they couldn't actually stand beside us, that at least they could pray for our success. And in the doing, I can tell you absolutely that things have changed. They've changed considerably from what they were when I started, and there's just no comparison. So many kids. I was married to my husband for more years, and the majority of the children I've escorted to their final resting place, and that's been very hard to do that, very hard, and to stand with the mothers and the siblings that are left behind after that tragedy. There's just no words. There just are no words that are going to make that better or fix that hurt. And we actually have grief counseling that's come about, and there's going to be a community meeting at 77th on Monday for grieving families as well during the holidays, because, the holidays are the hardest time for these families. The mothers always miss their children at Christmas. And if you're a parent, you know what that means. I don't have to explain that to you. But the joy of seeing their children, the joy of Thanksgiving and birthdays and sharing that time with their children is devastating, even Mother's Day. And I'm not sure out of all those days which is the worst. I just know they all are difficult for the families who have had their children stolen in this senseless war against ourselves. And today is also the anniversary date of Fred Hampton's execution. And Fred Hampton was an organizer of the Black Panthers in Chicago, I believe. But that's when things started changing for us as a community. You know, once the Panthers picked those guns up, things changed. They just changed. And instead of being able to exercise the Second Amendment rights supposedly we have, we instead turned into targets. So not only from law enforcement, but from somebody that may live in your community. So as we pay attention to the police, people like me want you to pay attention to this, because this is the greatest threat against our sons and sometimes our daughters and their children as well. So we may laugh and joke at things that are funny, but we don't laugh and joke about this. There's nothing funny about it. And truthfully, I'm still waiting for the capture of Hannah Bell's murder. You know, the young 15-year-old girl that was killed at the hamburger stand in April, at the end of April, just 3 weeks before Lamarian Upchurch and Manya Jackson, 2 more 15-year-olds were killed first thing Mother's Day morning. So, you know, we take this very seriously. And the truth is, they caught Lamarian and Manya Jackson's killers, but they have not caught Hannah Bell's. And so technically that murderer is still out there. Now, what makes this different tonight is, you can see I'm by myself again. And this, you know, I had to talk to God today very seriously because it rained. And when it rains, LA people get funny and they don't want to drive. And, you know, you get caught up like that. And I'm not challenging about it, but I know how that works. And the Holy Spirit reminded me, if they don't show up, you've been there before. This is how it started. Just me in the studio, talking in the microphone, no camera. All you could do was hear the words that I was saying. And believe me, I prayed about that every day. Every day. It's, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? And I didn't have to answer those questions, because in a miraculous way, God made it happen. He made it happen. I just showed up and sat in my seat, and things happened the way that they were supposed to. And people came because they had the courage and the concern that they wanted to discuss it and see if we couldn't find a solution, if it was no more than just to make ourselves aware that our children are dying to a violence that makes no sense. And it's the cruelest act against the black community since slavery. It's the cruelest act against our people since slavery. And the fact that we are the ones engaged in it makes it all the more hurtful. And so as you listen, you know that we have discussed the fact that it's a spiritual warfare, that the black man has always been the biggest target in this country. And it's time for us to recognize that again and go about the process of rebuilding like this younger generation is doing already. And I'm so excited about that. I'm so excited because my peers are the most apathetic. The young people in my children's age, they're interested. Stop touching the mic. You can hear it. I'm cussing in the mic? You're touching the mic. I'm touching the mic. Okay. Well, you know. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. Hi. This is our hostess. Isn't she cute? Isn't she cute and precious? And she takes such good care of us, and she always has. And, you know, she just kicked this door wide open, you know, after we lost our precious KTYM radio, a religious broadcast network in the community, and surprisingly right around the corner from Inglewood Cemetery. That was the first thing I had to recognize. We were in a studio right around the corner from Inglewood Cemetery, and I can't tell you how many visits that I've made to Inglewood, you know, because that's our family place. I have relatives that are buried there, but I also have children of associates that became associates because their children are buried there. And I just know that this is God trying to reach us, trying to tell us this is our responsibility, that these are our children, and don't we care about them? And I know every mother that's come to this microphone and every father that's had the courage to come and talk about his part in it have realized that we have to change this. It's our responsibility to change this. And so I asked two extraordinary women to come tonight because I met them through radio, and they were part, the uniqueness about them is that Skip used to go into the women's lockup and do an anger management class every Wednesday night. And that's where he met these ladies. And once they were released, he started bringing them around the ceasefire and that kind of thing to show them what kind of activities were going on outside of lockup. And one of them, Shanae Pope, bless her heart, all of these women have hit the ground running. And they're heavily involved, heavily invested. And, Skip has the second call, which is the acronym for Second Chance at Loving a Life. That's what that means. And they're serious about it. They have gotten men into the electricians union, and these are ex-offenders, felons, misdemeanors, folks that have been in lockup that need to come back and regain some kind of normalcy, and everybody is convinced that a reasonable paying wage keeps recidivism down. And they're right about that because these are grown men. They're too old to work for minimum wage, and they have to have a skill set to make a decent living, as we say that all the time. If you're unskilled labor, you're already in trouble. You're already in trouble. So the best advice we could give the youth of today, make sure you're prepared to work. Make sure that you have some kind of trade that people are willing to pay you to do. And so that's the beauty about Second Call, is because you're learning how to be an electrician, and that's something you can do on construction sites, or you can do in a private business. As I know, I met a young, he wasn't young, he was a grown African-American male that had his own electrician's business, and he worked on referrals only. He didn't have to advertise or any of that because he did such good work that his customers referred him to his next job. And so that's how he was able to build his business. And by the time I met him, he had 2 trucks and an assistant. So that's the capabilities that are available for the motivated that are serious about their recovery. And we want that for them, but the truth is my purpose has been to stop the murder. I haven't been in the recovery part of it, and thank God for people like Skip and Petra and Shanae and Kelly Dillon and, ladies that have been in lockup trying to come back and find a way to help other young ladies not follow their path, not do the same things that they were doing. And Skip, John Harriel, and Kenny Smith have done the same thing for the men coming out of lockup, and they do everything from carpentry to electricians. And so they've set up a viable avenue for an exit. The other thing, too, is that this is going a little off track, but it has to do with being an ex-offender with a record. Michigan legalized marijuana in this last week, and so when California did the same thing this year and other states have done the same thing, people like me have had questions about people like me that have gone to prison for distribution of marijuana. And so I asked that question, are they going to be able to get their records expunged? And So San Francisco has started that by, what's the right word I'm looking for? Eliminating all misdemeanor convictions up to 1975. And that's great news. The only problem is it's misdemeanors only. And as my friend, when I shared that post, my friend that came to the show to talk about his experience told me that when they locked him up, it was a felony. Okay? And so now our question is, are those subjects to be overturned? Felonies for marijuana possession or that kind of thing, are they likely to be overturned? So we still have work to do with our ex-offenders and trying to make a place, because, we're coming out of prison. That's the best news I can share with you. These kids, these young people are not interested in going and giving their life to lockup. They are not. So they're looking for any other alternative than that. So that by its very essence means that gangs are not on the increase, they're on the decrease. So your children have a better expectation of never being touched by gangs or gang violence. That's a great thing to be able to say after all of these years, and say it with conviction. For too many years, I read the homicide report every day. I checked the crime stats out of the South Bureau every week. And the numbers were terrifying. They were terrifying. We were at open warfare, and the casualty count was reflecting that it was open warfare, and nobody was safe. And it wasn't just my neighborhood. It was all the neighborhoods. So, my neighborhood was shooting at the people that were shooting back at them. See, so I'm, where I live isn't guilt-free, but the joy is there's been a wake-up. There's been a wake-up, and in the neighborhood where there's blood in the grass, like so many other neighborhoods, last week the councilman actually brought snow. He brought snow to the block again, and that's the second year that my community and the children in it have seen snow, because we don't realize part of the casualty in this gang warfare is access and freedom of movement. And so too many of our kids have never been to the beach. They've never been to Hollywood. They don't know Wilshire Boulevard or Westwood because they've been stuck in their neighborhood in that 20-block radius. And so Steve Harvey, years ago, well, it's been over 5 years, so that's why I say years ago. But he took a busload of inner city kids to a lake so they could fellowship and fish. A simple thing like that. Just go out to a lake in a close proximity of the city where they could fish and just have silence and quiet and talk as men. And I thought that was such an excellent beginning, but then it didn't happen again. And so there's so many things that our adult men could be doing for these young guys that are sitting by the side trying to figure out where they belong and where they're going to go next. And simple things like that. And so we have a lot of mothers that are the miracles in this, that in spite of their personal tragedies, in spite of burying their own children too soon, and especially the ones that have paid the price of more than one child, in spite of, they have found a way to come back and give back and see what they could do to stop the madness from hurting another family. And those are the women that have come to this show and sat and talked to you. And we rebroadcast one of those shows last week because it was a rain. There's a rain out like tonight. Rain in LA, we just don't know what to do with it. So we rebroadcast that show last week, and both of these mothers had buried 2 sons. And the shame is that Barbara's first child was killed when he was 15, and he wasn't even the target. He wasn't the target, and I don't mean he wasn't even the target. He wasn't the target. He was killed in a crossfire. And the shooter was 16. And so, 2 lives. The 15-year-old's gone. His family's still paying for his absence. And the 16-year-old is locked up somewhere that we don't know if he's ever coming back. Because technically at 16, whether he intended to hurt Barbara's son or not, he still came away a murderer. Because he did. So that's 2 lives, 2 families, at least 2 families impacted by this. And that's why it's important for us to wake up as a people and make our children understand how wrong it is, not only to take a life, but to take a black life in this unholy war is just a sin against God and us. God and black man, humankind, it's just a sin against us, and we have to shun it. It's not anything to be glorified, fighting over colors that don't do anything for any of us. It seems such a shame that we got caught up in something that wasn't real, but it has become all too real in the harm that it caused and the damages left. And prayerfully, that's my guess. I got a phone call. Hello, caller. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is my guest. Hello, sweetie. How you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you today?
Glad to hear from you. You getting out that rain?
Yeah, it stopped raining, thank God.
It did stop raining, but you're so far away it don't matter because the streets between where you were and here are flooded anyhow, and then the traffic is a nightmare too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself, honey.
My name is Petra, and I work with Second Call.
Yes, you do.
And I hate that I couldn't be sitting next to you right now, but calling in is the next best thing, so yeah. I'm here.
Well, that's the beauty about you, Petra, see, because the last time that you did a call-in, and we don't like the call-ins because we can't really discuss things the way we want to, but the last time Leah was here, and you were at the hospital with your mom.
I was.
In that waiting room with your mom, and you were gracious enough and so kind to call in and talk to Leah. And that was such a powerful conversation to just sit and hear you speak to that child the way you did. And, I've always been impressed with you since I met you guys.
And I love being able to impress you.
Yeah. That makes such a difference when you see the effect it has on the young people. And I was sitting here looking at Leah as you were talking to her on the phone, and I could see little things turning in her head like, yeah, I hear that. I understand. I receive what she's saying to me.
Absolutely. The youth is the future.
Yes,
so I have to do my part. If I can't do it in person, and it has to be over the phone with just a conversation, whatever it is that I can do to try to pave the way to make it better for them, then I have to do my part.
Yes. Well, because I like to tell folks about you and Shanae and Kelly and how you gave the state some time out of your life, but you served your time. And when you came out with the intentions of 2 things: not ever going back, and to try to be a benefit to others that are out here thinking about following in your footsteps.
I mean, I figure I gave the state a lot and the feds too much time. 12 years of my time.
Yes, you did. And I just thought that was so remarkable. Just you, 3 remarkable women. Shanae gave 17, you gave 12. I can't remember how many Kelly gave.
I don't remember either. It was somewhere between, it might have been like 12 and a half, between 12 and 17. It was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, because we was laughing about the combined 40 or 50 years between the three of you, and it's just amazing that you're still young women. Still young women. And
I mean, my body tells another story every now and then, but in my mind, I'm still 21.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'll claim 39. I'll claim 39. 21, no, I don't want to be 21 again. But the beauty about it, too, and I knew when it rained today I wasn't going to see Shanae. I knew, because the wonderful news about Shanae, she served her, she did her time, and she came home heading in a different direction and working with Second Call, and 17 years later, she got that first baby.
Absolutely. Shanae is a big part of my motivation for change. She got me signed up for groups while we were in prison. I used to tell everybody she was bullying me.
Bullying you. Yeah.
But the reality is,
well, she's
I'm
about,
I'm not going to do nothing I don't want to do.
Well, wait, she's about 5'2", and you're about 6 feet.
It's my story, sister. It's my story. But it was a positive influence, and with her serving a life sentence and me having a date in my mind is if I don't get it together and get on this path, that life sentence could very well be mine.
Yes. And that's a shame. A lot of folks that get in that trouble don't realize that it can become a life sentence. You don't have to be in lockup for it to be a life sentence, but it can turn into that.
Real quick. So I was fortunate enough to have friends who were in the position to add and multiply and encourage a positive change as opposed to the friends that encourage the negativity. So now I gravitate more so towards those that are adding and multiplying. And it makes it easier for me to want to be a better person and do the same.
And also, wouldn't you say that the attitudes are changing too?
Absolutely. That was the first thing that had to change was the attitude. Because without me changing my attitude, nothing else was going to change.
Well, no, I'm not talking about your attitude. That was necessary for you to come out back in your right mind. But I'm talking about the young people that you're working with now. Are you getting the essence that their attitude is changing, that they're not glamorizing the lifestyle the way it used to be?
Sometimes I feel that there's a lot that are still misguided and misled by that lifestyle, and they still think that it's a great choice in a career move. But for those individuals, I am here to be that example that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. They tell us, they show us the money and the girls and the guys and the houses and the things that they're able to obtain through the fast money, but what's not being taught to the youth and what wasn't taught to me when they were glamorizing it was it also comes with an early grave and possibly a life sentence in prison.
Right.
And they leave that part out.
Right. That's the only way you could convince a young, foolish child. And the truth is all kids are broke. They're supposed to be broke. They're being taken care of. Mom and dad are footing the bill for them. They're not paying rent. They're not buying the food. They're not paying the car note. You see, so they're supposed to be broke. They don't work. They're supposed to be broke. And so this is how criminals appeal to that young innocence that has some ignorance in it because they're young and they don't know better. And so crime and criminals will tap into your need. And
Absolutely.
The easiest one to tap into with a young person is money.
Absolutely, because we all like money.
Yeah, but at 15, you shouldn't be riding around in a $40,000 car.
Absolutely not.
Okay, unless
you
you're.
Can't even spell that car.
Okay, you can't
let alone see over the steering wheel to drive it.
Yeah, you're not.
And I had to learn that. I was into in the fast lane. I went to prison for bank robbery.
Yes.
Getting that fast money in a lump sum. I wanted it faster, and I wanted a lot of it. But the reality is, I turned around and ended up giving it back to the state for that 12 years, buying noodles and beans and coffee and creamer and sausage that sits in my locker for a week.
Yes. They take it all. They take it all. And, you know, you just reminded me, because on my block, there used to be a young man that drove a SUV, a big wagon. All right. And he just circled the block all the time. Every time I see him, he's just riding down the block. So my neighbor one day told me, and my neighbor was hooked up. He was an OG. And we'd be across the fence talking to each other, and I'd be trying to tell him, well, what are you going to tell the young brothers about this? I'm going to tell them they have to put in work. It's like, yo, fool, are you serious? And you telling me that? Well, you know, sister, this is what it is. It's like, okay. So here comes this SUV down the street, and he tells me, you know, that young man right there, he's a bank robber. And when he has to pay his car note, he goes and robs a bank.
Right. And so, it's not worth it. At the end of the day, if you get caught for robbing that bank, guess what? Money gone, car gone.
And the car's gone. The first thing is gone is the car. Because, look, they're going to catch you in that dang car. They're going to catch you in it. And the bank's going to catch you because everything has video cameras now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, you know.
And not just in the banks. I was driving down the street the other day and saw a camera on a stop sign.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not
over
surprised.
There in Beverly Hills.
Oh, I'm
so
not
they're in
surprised.
The parks, they're on every corner. Big Brother is always watching.
Yes,
so
he is.
At the end of the day, and then when it comes down to it, the same people that you think are your friends that are committing these crimes and encourage you to live this lifestyle, when your back's up against a wall and they have to choose between my freedom and my friend, today they're choosing themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the code of the streets is don't snitch, but the reality is a lot more people are telling on everyone but trying to save themselves. So those codes and that badge of honor and all of that stuff, it is so overrated, and it's not worth it.
It is, because there is no code and there is no badge of honor anymore, because the sentences that they've been inflicting have been horrific, over sentencing, you know, and this kind of thing. And so they've been shuffling out plea deals, and folks have been jumping at the plea deals because it's less prison time. But that plea deal doesn't come without a price. You got to give up something to get. Yeah. So who you going to give up? Your partner that you did the crime with. That's the essence. Yeah. That's the definition of a snitch.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I bought a T-shirt the other day, and it has like three shapes of bodies on it. Mm-hmm. One is black, and it said, same crime. The black guy got a life sentence. The brown guy got 15 years. The white guy got probation.
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
The system is not fair.
No.
And it's not helping us, and we are setting ourselves up for failure when we make the wrong decisions and go out there and do things that we know we have absolutely no business whatsoever doing.
Well, you know what?
It's wrong for the adults that have been there, done that, to continue to allow today's youth to think that that's okay, because it's not.
Well, you know, Ashley, when you were wild in the way you were, things were completely out of control, and you weren't out there wilding by yourself. And truthfully, I think that folks like me just didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to say to you. We didn't know what was going to work. We weren't even sure we could get your attention to let you know that you were making mistakes. So there's some things that just fell out because that's what it was. But now that we have a new generation coming in, they're coming in with their eyes open. They don't want to repeat the same things. They don't want to. They may not be sure where they're going, but they're pretty certain where they don't want to go. And it's my understanding that African Americans have reduced the prison population by 22%.
And that is wonderful.
Yes, that's excellent news. And the joke attached to that is that the privatized prisons are suing because they don't have enough cells filled. You know, so There's a joke in there, but that's good news for African Americans.
It is.
Yeah.
I think the difference between like my generation and the voice that was talking to me back then, in my mind, it's like, you just don't want me to have any fun.
Yes. Yes.
Because to me, I was having fun, and I wasn't really aware of the consequences. It's like I knew, but I didn't know. And today, it's like, so then I always felt like if you've never lived the lifestyle or never walked a mile in my shoes, like, you can't tell me anything at all whatsoever. The good thing today is the fact that I have lived that lifestyle. I have done the time. Today, I can get the attention of today's youth because they can relate to me more because I have been there, done that, as opposed to me trying to show them something or tell them something and I've never experienced it.
Well, you know what? They do respect that more. They really do. You know, I'm sad to badmouth school counselors, but school counselors don't live in the neighborhood. They don't live under the threat. They get to go home to peace and quiet and safety, and then come back to this location where these kids are struggling to get to and from school, and then be in a school where they're actually going to learn something for the time they're sitting there. So it's a lot of fails that have happened on this side of the table in the years from where you first were running wild to where we are now.
But when I was running wild, I wasn't aware of organizations like Second Call that are willing to assist and teach life skills, and where I may have thought that I didn't have a choice, I have organizations like Second Call that presents me with a bunch of different options. It's like while they're telling me not to pick up guns and knives, they're giving me the opportunity and the tools to be able to pick up tape measures and conduit and drywall and all the other stuff that comes with getting into a career that will allow me to not only be a productive member of society, but then it also provides me the opportunity to be able to provide for my family.
Yes.
So if you're going to tell me not to sell drugs, but yet you don't want to give me a job.
Well, come on now. It's more than a job. See, that's the problem. It's more than a job. You have a career. You have a life skill that will pay you whether you work in a commercial construction or if you go into your private business. But you have a skill that gives you that flexibility. A job never comes with that. A job is just a paycheck. You got to show up, you got to put in the hours, and then go home and come back the next day. There's a whole big difference in that. And a job implies unskilled labor.
Absolutely. We say a job stands for Journey of the Broke.
Oh, Journey of the Broke. Okay.
That's living paycheck to paycheck and trying to figure out what I'm going to do in the meantime, in between time, until the next one comes up.
Say that again. Journey
of the Broke.
Of the Broke. Okay. Journey
like
of the Broke.
I'm working hard to help build somebody else's dream. When I get a career, it puts me in a position to live some of mine.
Well, you know what, truthfully, Petra, when you was wild, and drug dealing was a big thing. That folks had the illusion that was real money. And that's because we didn't know any better. And nobody saw the fact that, yeah, you're making money, but you're distributing poison and killing our community. We didn't make the association until we saw the fallout from the addiction and started recognizing. Then we had to decide whether we was going to keep on distributing that poison for the money or do something else. See, so it hasn't been overnight. Smartest man in intervention. Overnight. Yeah, it was not overnight.
Everything is a process.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yes. And this was a process, and it caught you, and it caught a lot of others because we didn't know any better. We didn't know any better as a people. And, it's some lessons to find out the hard way.
I don't know. For me, like, I don't look at it like I was arrested. I look at it like I was rescued because it saved me from myself. Yeah. And when I'm in the midst of the situation, the circumstances, and I'm looking at things from the inside out, I either don't see certain things or I just don't want to see it. When I was removed from the situation and I found myself on the outside looking in, I was able to reevaluate myself and my position and see things for what they really were.
Yeah. And removing you, actually taking your freedom. That's a shock.
To be honest, I could have did a little less than 12 years I think I got the message probably in the first two.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. It's like,
you know, my guy got a sense of humor, so I said, I think he figured, you might need 10 more just to make sure. That you got this lesson I'm trying to teach you.
Yeah.
And when it's all said and done, I'm going to have you right where I want you.
Well, you know why?
Being a part of the solution.
Girl, because you was thinking bank robbing was fun. Okay, wrong. Got to get you here long enough so you can realize, no, not fun.
Absolutely.
It's costly.
It is.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes.
And I had the mentality back then that my choices and my actions didn't affect anyone but me. Like, I'm the only one that will have to suffer the consequences.
Right.
But the reality of that is my choices and my actions affect everybody that loves and support me.
That's right.
As well.
That's right.
Probably even more.
Yes.
Probably even more.
Yes. Yes.
So rather than continue to be selfish and act like it's all about me, I have to be able to see the bigger picture. It's not just about me. It's bigger than me.
And then, too, you know, in fairness to all of you, you were surrounded by that attitude. You know, I've asked people all the time, did your peers influence you? And their answer is no. It's like, how could they not influence you when that's who you hang out with? That's who you talk about. That's who you organize with. That's who you dream with is your peers. So I know no old guy was driving you to the bank to jump the counter and rob them.
Hey, some of my, a couple of my co-defendants and my friends was a lot older than me.
Okay. But did they drive you to the bank, or did you do that with a younger group?
Well, I would have been the driver, whether it was with the younger group or the older one.
You'd have been the driver. Is that what you said?
Yeah. I was driving the car. I was confident in my skills, and I wasn't too much wanting to depend on everybody else's. So I know I'm gonna get us there, and I'm gonna get us back.
Okay.
But I honestly cannot blame my choices, even though I had friends surrounding me that engaged in that activity. It was me, myself, that made the choice to partake in those activities.
Of course.
I cannot sit here and say that somebody forced me to do it.
No, I'm not saying force. No,
pressure.
this is not about force. This is about pure choices. Right. You were making a choice at the time, and you were influenced by your associates. That's really what I'm trying to get at. Influenced by your associates.
They made it look fun. They made it look easy. When they came back with that fast money, in my mind, how can I get in on that?
Yes. Yes.
And I want to go. The next time you go, I want to go. Today, when people call me with that foolishness, it's like, hey, if I can't talk you out of it, let me know how that works out for you. But I can know my friends are still my friends.
Yes.
But I've learned that I have to love them from across the street.
Yes.
Some people are mad at me because I've changed. For a minute, I was mad because you guys have not changed. I mean, I went to prison for 12 years. When I came home, some of my friends were stuck in the same position that they were in when I left 12 years ago.
Yeah. That's the sad reality. Yes.
I'm doing a lot more and a lot better than a lot of people that were here free and had a bunch of opportunities that they just failed to take advantage of. And it's like, I don't want to be one of those people. I know better, so I have to choose to do better. And knowing what I know, it's like we sit up and talk about, don't talk, don't say this, don't tell that. What goes on in this house stays in that house. At this point, like, my silence is not an option when it comes to trying to save these babies.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the future.
Yeah.
And if we don't give them the proper guidance and the proper tools to be successful, they're only going to repeat the vicious cycle that failed the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it's played out. We set this pattern, we glamorized it, glorified it, and next thing we know, the young people want to be a part of it, and the older ones are saying, yeah, well, come on, join us. You see, so just that simple, just kind of like it sprung up overnight, but there was a need. There was a big gap, and I like for people to understand that they dropped that drug on our poverty, and it drove us crazy. The addiction drove the addiction threw the money at the dealer. It just threw it. It ran up and threw all that money in his face, and he says, "Okay, bring me more." See, because now he's addicted to the money, and the addiction is giving him more money. As I tell the story about my friend that was getting so much money, he ended up with 40 cars. 40. Yeah.
You can only drive one.
You can only drive one at a time, and that was the joke. It's like, but he had so much money, where could he put it? You see, and this is what the birth of bling became. I've got so much money. Let me go buy some gold chains. Let me go buy some diamond stud earrings. Let me go buy some new kicks. You see, so it was the money that drove us crazy, okay? And to have the money started the wars.
Yeah. And then, but when people start dying, you can't take the money with you.
No, you can't take the money with you. And the sad truth is they weren't really, well, I can't even say what they were really doing anymore, because there's been so many years. And in the beginning, it was about turf. And then it turned into vengeance. It turned into vengeance somewhere along the line.
Speaking on the turf, just like the conversation that you and I were having yesterday about these 3 colors in this flag, and we fight over the red and the blue, and we tend to ignore the white, because we didn't bring none of this stuff over here.
No, we didn't.
The guns, the drugs, didn't. They're giving that to us, and instead of us realizing that they're giving us the tools for us to destroy ourselves, that's just making their job easy.
And the truth, girl, there wasn't even a thing called a drug cartel until crack showed up in L.A. It wasn't even called a drug cartel until crack showed up in Los Angeles.
Imagine that.
Yes. We made a whole industry that didn't even exist until they dropped that drug on our poverty. You see, and so when we come out of this darkness and look back at it, we're going to be able to see very clearly what happened to us, what happened to our community, what happened to our children, the price we paid. But until we step back and look at the whole picture, we're just sitting in here talking about, well, it ain't me. It's like, excuse me, are you waiting for it to get to be you? Or are you waiting for it to get to be somebody in your family?
Right.
You see,
so if we ignore it, it's only a matter of time. We can sit up and say, oh, well, it's not on my block and it's not my issue. The reality is it's only a matter of time.
And you know what? That was the first. Look, Petra, that was the first excuse I heard when I got real serious about this way back in the early 2000s. The people would tell me, oh, it's not on my block. Oh, it's not in my neighborhood.
Yeah, it's still your problem.
Yeah. But you hear the gunfire. You hear the gunfire at night. Yeah. You hear the news. You hear the news. You see the cameras coming out, putting that camera in that girlfriend or that mother's face, screaming and hollering about her child being murdered. And you see it all on the news, but people had nerve enough to say, well, that's not my neighborhood. Like as if it made you immune and it protected your child from that, when, a lot of innocent kids have been killed in here.
Absolutely.
A lot of innocent kids. And we should not assume that just because they were shot, they must have been guilty. Please.
Exactly. There was a guy in my community that was just shot night before last, 15 times, taking the trash out.
Taking the trash.
I'm not necessarily going to say he was innocent, but he didn't deserve to get shot 15 times taking out the garbage.
Well, see, there are levels, okay? And I'm sorry to say there are some sad realities in some of these levels. And as we said, first, the war was about turf. Then it turned into payback. And sometimes, innocents get killed. The innocent get killed because of a payback. Barbara Pritchard's Hugh's second son had nothing to do with the issue, nothing to do with what caused his death. He wasn't there. He wasn't involved. He was a working kid.
Right.
But the people that were angry about their friend's death, and their friend caused his own death. Let's be real clear about that. Their friend caused his own death. And in his death, he killed somebody else too. Now his friends come back and kill Barbara's son that had nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with it. See, so thank God they have been arrested. They've been on trial, and hopefully they're on their way to lockup. But as these kinds of cases come out and we get that arrest, it ends up that shooter gets a life sentence. That's really what they're doing. So
now that's 2 families and 2 lives destroyed. The victim and the suspects come out of the same home.
Actually, and the truth is there was 2 suspects. So that's 3 families.
So that's 3 families.
3 families, yes.
So they have mothers, they have kids.
Yes.
So on both ends of the spectrum, everybody is affected.
Yes.
Nobody is above, you know what I'm saying, what's
Yes.
really going on out here in these streets.
Yes.
It's affecting everybody.
Yes.
The victims and the suspects.
Petra, look, girl, you were so good. I wish you were here in studio because, look, we're almost out of time. I think I got a couple of minutes left, so I want you to say something real smart to these young kids that you're really good at. And you tell them what they need to know so I don't have to.
I mean, one thing I can say is I heard Skip say when I first came home, we sit up and talk about we'll die for our hood, we'll die for our colors, we'll die for this dollar. What is it going to take for us to live for the things that we love and the things that we believe in? Because I don't get stripes for being the deadest person in the cemetery.
Yeah.
I'm no good to anybody.
And you know what? After a while, people forget you.
Man.
Okay, because after you're dead, they really, nothing else they can do. The only one that never forgets is your family.
I mean, and even with the family, after a while, it gets easier and easier.
Well, no, it doesn't get easier. You just get through it. You just get through it. Like Vicky said, if you're not going to get over it, but can you get through it? You know, so for mothers like that, it's a day-to-day. And I tell you, so many of my friends are mothers like that. And every day they remember their children. And so, family, we want you to remember those mothers and those families, too. And, Petra, I want to thank you for calling in. I really do.
And I hate that you will be leaving us pretty soon.
Well, you know.
This is a very important platform that I am grateful to have been a part of, and I thank you for everything.
I thank you, honey, because I wouldn't be here without you. You know, this is not about me. This is about we. It's about us. It's about all of us, yes. And so you've been a part of it.
It takes a village, and I'm grateful to now be a part of that village.
Yeah, that's right.
And to have shared a seat and my voice with you.
Yeah. Well, you're impacting a lot of lives, and, you know, we so need that, and so grateful to have you back in your right mind, honey, and I just really thank you for being a part of this, and we'll figure out what we're going to do next.
Oh, it's not over.
Yeah, no, it's not over.
It's not over till it's over.
That's right. But the rain is over for today, so you get home safe, and I want to thank you for calling in, honey.
Okay, you have a good night.
I will, you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank
you. All right, baby.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, that's another hour here with you, and you know, it's almost over for me. So we thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention. And more than that, we thank you for your prayers and the idea that we can change this, because if I didn't believe we could change it, I wouldn't be here. And I know God says all things are possible with him, and I'm a living testimony of the possibility. So God bless you. Thank you for listening, and we will be back next week. And if it doesn't rain, we'll have the guests that promised to come in too. So thank you, Poetess, and thank you, family.